Believe me, I know how overwhelming it can be when you're brand new to GTA RP. And when I realized there really wasn't much information out there on how to get started, I decided to share everything I wish I knew before jumping in, to help you guys feel a little bit more prepared. By watching this video, you're already gonna know so much more than someone just plopping into an RP server on their first day. Remember, and this is important throughout the entire video, every server is gonna be a little bit different. So keep that in mind as we cover each topic. The hotkey or the lingo might be slightly different depending on which server you play on, but the basic concepts will remain the same. All right, we have a lot to cover, so grab your coffee and let's get started. Hey guys, I'm Desh. I'm a content creator and a GTA role player. And today we're gonna cover everything you need to know to be an RP rockstar. Here's what we'll cover. And remember that timestamps will be linked in the description below. Common roleplay questions and answers. I'll be answering the most common questions I see on YouTube, on Reddit, and I get asked in my live streams on Twitch. Setup, do's, and don'ts. Roleplay terms you should know, and in-character lingo. Which servers you should join and how to apply. We're gonna cover the application process, the time frame, and prep to make sure you have a good chance at getting accepted on those whitelisted servers like NoPixel. Creating your first character and how to develop an engaging backstory, how to find your stream ID or Hex ID, how to install 5M, what it is, and how it compares to GTA Online, in-game settings and keybinds, how to get started in-game and the HUD, mistakes new players should avoid, beginner tips and some great advice for new players, basic emotes, shared emotes, commands, and how-tos in-game, heists, gangs, jobs, and activities, things I recommend doing your very first day to help get you started. As I said, everything will be linked in the timestamps below, in case you're looking for something specific. But if you are brand new, I recommend watching the entire video, as we will cover everything you need to know about GTA roleplay. By the way, at any time you can refer to the written guide linked below as well. I'm the type of person that likes to bookmark websites I refer to often, so for those wanting this information handy when you are in the middle of RP, feel free to do so. Everything will be in the written guide below. All right, the first thing I want to do is cover some of the most common questions I see on YouTube, on Reddit, and I get asked in my live streams. For those wanting to get started in GTA RP, one question I see asked a lot on Reddit is, do I need experience playing GTA 5 before starting RP? And the answer is no. You do need to own the game, however, so you will need your own copy of GTA 5. But we'll talk more about that in a bit. You need to own a copy of GTA 5, but you do not have to have played it before joining an RP server and jumping straight into RP. But will someone that has played GTA 5 have more of an advantage over someone who hasn't? Not necessarily. The only real advantage I can think of is that someone who has played GTA might be more familiar with certain locations on the map. But other than that, this is RP. You're going to be joining a unique server with unique characters, its own set of rules, and it will be a completely different experience. So you don't need to be familiar with the GTA 5 story. Sorry, Trevor.
You are not very nice.
One question I get asked all the time in my live streams is, do I need to be a streamer in order to roleplay? No, you do not need to be a streamer or a content creator in order to roleplay or join an RP server. In fact, I'd say the majority of players aren't. There are some amazing RP streamers out there, but there are just as many, if not more, who are equally as amazing who don't. Just gamers who enjoy RP. So if you're not a creator, don't let that discourage you from applying to a server and joining in the RP experience. That being said, just remember that you may not be streaming, but someone you may be interacting with very well could be. So just be respectful either way. Be courteous. Don't go around blasting music that isn't DMCA free. As long as you remember that what you do does impact others, whether it be their stream or their RP experience. As long as you're aware of that, you'll be good to go. Another question I see asked all the time on YouTube and Reddit is, can I play on more than one server? And the answer? Heck yeah, you can. You could absolutely play on more than one RP server, and a lot of players do. Just remember that every server is different. So as you switch back and forth, remember every server is going to have different rules and different ways of doing things. As long as you respect each server and understand that things may vary, even just slightly, you could play on as many as you like. Another question I see asked a lot is, do I need to be an actor or a voice actor in order to RP? Absolutely not. You do not need to be an actor or a voice actor or have any experience performing in order to be a good role player. Can that help? Absolutely. But it is by no means a requirement. Remember, practice makes perfect. No one's an RP god on their first day, not even XQC.
Am I in the shot?
Oh, shit. Yeah, you win the shot.
For some people, it may seem that it comes naturally, and maybe it does. But regardless, everyone starts somewhere. Everyone was new to the city once. They had to meet people and figure things out just like you are. If there's something you just aren't getting, a lot of servers will encourage you to ask in character and RP it out. But we'll discuss that in greater detail in just a little bit. Although you don't need to be a professional by any means, I would recommend using a decent mic. And on that note, let's segue to our next topic, setup tips and do's and don'ts. Tip number 1, do use a decent mic. No need for a professional setup, but having a decent mic can go a long way. As long as you sound clear and are easy to understand, you're already setting yourself up for success, trust me. Tip number 2, don't let your mic peak. This may go without saying, but a sound check is never a bad idea. Pay attention to your audio settings. Practice yelling, laughing, anything loud that may cause your mic to peak. If it goes into the red, you probably need to make some adjustments. Do a quick recording if you need to make sure you don't sound distorted or too painfully loud on those extra intense moments where you may be shouting in an RP scenario. Tip number 3, do use push to talk. This should go without saying, but especially if you're someone that tends to have a lot of background noise, say dogs barking, babies crying, a lawnmower going off, push to talk will help keep these unnecessary distractions to a minimum and provide a better RP experience for those you interact with. And your fellow RPers will appreciate you, I promise you that. Tip number 4, don't overuse sound bites or effects. Too much. Sound bites and voice modulators can be a lot of fun and can make for some pretty hilarious comedic moments. But if you do choose to do something like this often, make it part of your character and not your whole character. Do it sparingly when it makes sense, but be careful not to overdo it. For example, if you're someone that loves Diablo and uses a
Fresh meat
soundbite whenever you walk up to someone new, that could be like your thing, like your own personal introduction. That being said, don't go around spamming it every 5 minutes, you know what I mean? Same for using things like auto-tune.
Chicken soup, chicken wings, chicken pot pies. Hey, you know we got it all. Drumsticks in the thighs.
Be true to your character, but at the same time, try not to do anything excessive that may annoy others or ruin someone else's RP experience. Tip number 5, don't play sound through your speakers. Trust me on this one. Use headphones or earbuds, something that will prevent everything you hear from bouncing off the walls in your room and back into your mic, causing everyone around you to hear an echo and hear themselves repeated. If you're letting sound come out of your monitor, when others speak, your mic will pick up that feedback, and whenever people are near you, they'll hear themselves twice. As you can imagine, this can not only irritate others, but it can also disrupt the RP. By the way, if you're looking for a great headset, I love the ones I'm using right now, and I've linked them in the description below if you want to check them out. But again, when it comes to setup, you don't need anything fancy. You just need to be clear and make sure you're not getting any feedback, unnecessary noise, or having an echo. As long as you have a decent mic, a pair of headphones, you sound clear, and you minimize background noise, you're golden. Next up, let's discuss RP terms and in-character lingo. Of course, you probably already know RP stands for roleplay. But what is roleplay exactly? When you roleplay, you take on a character persona, someone that isn't you, but someone you've created who has their own goals, their own fears, strengths, weaknesses, ambitions, and abilities. In RP, you fear for your life. Your actions have consequences, and you act out situations as you would in real life. For example, if you fell off a cliff, you wouldn't immediately get up and go on with your day. You'd likely have severe wounds or need medical attention, not to mention you'd be in quite a bit of pain. With RP, you play out scenarios like this by things you say and do, and I'm going to show you how. But the best part about RP are the interactions you have with other RPers. Think of roleplay as one giant game of improv. You can have something in mind, but you must be ready to pivot.
Pivot! Pivot! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
Always be prepared to adapt to any given situation at any time, as the stakes are always changing, and you never know what kind of scenario you may find yourself in. But trust me, that's where the fun is. Most servers have rules, which help keep everyone in line and create a better, more immersive experience for everyone. We'll be covering a lot of these in this section. ERP stands for erotic roleplay. Pretty self-explanatory and not allowed on most servers. Whitelisted. Many RP servers require you to apply. When you're whitelisted, this means your application on the server was accepted. I'll talk more about why you want to apply to a whitelisted server in just a bit. IC stands for in character, and OOC stands for out of character. Doing something in character means talking, typing, whatever you're doing in character, or doing it as your character, while OOC, out of character, means talking in your own voice, out of character. Essentially, breaking RP. Most servers require you to do everything in character at all times. And in my opinion, this creates a more immersive experience and makes for better RP all around. When you're brand new to RP, this can be a little daunting, as you may be tempted to ask questions OOC, like how to do something, for instance. But again, most servers will encourage you to learn these things by RPing it out. For example, say you're having trouble getting into your vehicle. You could keep the RP going by asking IC. Furthermore, another player can offer advice IC, keeping the RP experience intact while still helping out. Take a look at this clip from my very first day on an RP server.
It's weird, like right on my bike. I'm not sure if it's like blood or something, but there's like a red circle almost around my bike, and I don't know, it must be sticking on my shoe because I'm having trouble getting on my bike.
Maybe you should try to unlock it.
Oh, nice.
As you can see, I was struggling to get onto my bike, but found a way to ask for help IC. And the other person gave me a hint, IC. I'll talk more about these types of situations in a bit, when we cover commands, beginner tips, and in-game scenarios. Now, what if someone else breaks RP and speaks OOC? It's unlikely, but say you get in a confrontation with someone, and they call you a name instead of your character, and it's clearly an intentional rule break. Don't further break RP, but report the player and move on. Most likely, however, if someone is new to the server or brand new to RP and struggling to figure something out, if you hear someone accidentally break RP and ask a question OOC, encourage them to figure it out through RP and make sure to respond IC in character. Also on my first day, for example, someone asked me for my phone number and I didn't know how to use my phone. Here's how we RP'd it out.
I mean, your number would be nice.
Absolutely. Let me try to remember. I just got a new phone. I'm not sure how to add contacts
What
yet.
type of model is it? Is it an F1 model?
Oh, it is, actually.
The person responded IC with a clear hint to press F1 to bring up my phone without having to break RP. You may be surprised, but RPing out scenarios like this are actually a great way to learn. And people get pretty clever explaining things. And someday you'll be the veteran player and come across a brand new player, and it'll be your turn to help someone out by staying in character and finding a way to explain through RP. Now, some RP servers may allow things to be done OOC, but again, every server is different. So make sure you do your homework and you research the servers you join before jumping in. Respect their rules and the different ways they may handle IC and OOC. As long as you do that, you'll be good to go. Speaking of IC and OOC scenarios, this next term is one you really want to be familiar with: metagaming. Metagaming is when you use OOC knowledge when you're RPing IC, and this will pretty much guarantee you an automatic ban on most servers, not to mention YouTube or Twitch chat as well. This is something the RP community as a whole takes very seriously. So I'll explain it a bit more to make sure you really understand what it means. Basically, if you yourself learn something OOC or out of character, you cannot use that knowledge IC in character, as your character would have no way of knowing that information. Here's an example. Say in Discord, you see someone post that Olaf perma-died. You can't then, in character, run up to someone and say, hey, did you hear Olaf died? Your character would have no way of knowing that information. Therefore, you can't act on it, not until your character learns that information through RP. Here's another example. Say you're RPing as a cop and you happen to be streaming. If someone pops into your chat and says, hey, the criminal you're looking for is at Pillbox Hospital, your character can't then head over to Pillbox and make an arrest, as your character didn't learn that information. You did. Do you see the difference? Metagaming, or MG, almost always results in a clear advantage for the offending party and can be even seen as stream sniping. Not to mention, it completely ruins the RP. It's a big no-no, both on RP servers and on platforms like Twitch, so just don't do it. And if someone does try to convey information that your character wouldn't know, make sure not to act on it. No need to stress though. Just make sure you yourself never metagame or act on any OOC info you may acquire through any means other than RP, and you'll be fine. It's that simple. Power gaming, or PG, is another way to gain an advantage in an unfair scenario, and this is also prohibited on most servers. Methods of power gaming can include robbing other players without giving them a chance to try to escape or defend themselves, constantly talking over others without allowing them a chance to respond or contribute to the conversation, or forcing dismemberment on another player without their consent. Basically, you can't just go around doing whatever you want at the expense of other players without at least allowing them to RP the situation out. In other words, just respect other players. Interact with them as you would someone IRL. And don't force anyone to do anything without giving them a chance to respond, I see first. Deathmatch, or DM, or random deathmatch, or RDM, is killing another player for no reason. Again, this is RP. Your actions have consequences. You can't just run up to a player you've never met and shoot them in the head and then go about your day. If there's a confrontation or they wronged you in some way and the situation escalates from there, that's RP. But no randomly killing players without engaging in RP first. However, if you happen to find yourself in a gang territory where a specific gang may be known to shoot on sight when you cross a certain area, that's RP as well. But again, these are all things you learn in-game through RP. Vehicle deathmatch, or VDM, is killing another player with a vehicle for no reason. Basically trying to run someone over with a vehicle without any interaction or RP. Spawn kill, or SK, is when someone shoots you or kills you the moment you spawn on the server. Before I got whitelisted on Twitch RP, I thought I'd hop onto some public servers for a little practice. I tried about 3 or 4 of them before I gave up, because that's exactly what happened to me. Without fail, the moment I spawned on the server, someone would execute me before I had a chance to do anything, and it made it impossible for me to RP. If you're serious about trying out RP, this is just another reason why I highly recommend applying to a whitelisted RP server. They have rules, but it just prevents things like this from happening. And it honestly makes for a better RP experience for everyone. Permadeath. On most servers, only you can decide when your character dies permanently. That being said, you still have to react to those close calls. Say, for instance, someone hits you in the head with a bat.
I can try. Are you okay?
You can't just pick yourself up and go for coffee. You'd be in serious pain. You might not even be able to talk. Not to mention, you may need some medical attention. If you do respond, make sure to do so in character.
Okay, yep.
Are you okay?
Are you okay?
No, I'm not fucking okay. But only you can decide if a truly fatal incident occurs, killing your character for good.
Santa, bye-bye.
Keep in mind, just like it sounds, permadeath means your character dies permanently. Do not decide this on a whim, and do not take this term lightly. Make sure you realize the weight of perma-killing your character before, if ever, you decide to do so. Remember that you'll be RPing with a ton of other characters, and your actions, even your character's death, will affect other players. Usually, permadeath situations will be discussed in PMs to confirm before a death certificate is signed, sealing the fate of that character. Now, some people have multiple characters, and when they feel like it's time, they will usually go out with a bang. Maybe it's a slow burn storyline, and they always saw their character dying this way. Maybe they have a funeral and invite everyone from the RP server to join and pay the respects. I've definitely seen some things like this take place, and it can be really emotional and a great way to say farewell if or when the time comes to close the chapter on that particular character. But keep in mind, in general, general, it's very hard to reverse a permadeath. So once again, if you ever decide to permadeath your character, consider it permanent. Team kill, or TK, is killing someone from your own gang or organization or family and is likely prohibited. A lot of gangs will have rivalries with other gangs, and this may get heated as situations unfold. However, most gangs rely heavily on the loyalty of its members, so keep that in mind. I would say the only exception may be if a member of a particular gang, say, went rogue or did something that really pissed off the gang leader, and the gang makes a collective decision together to off the other player. Remember that every server is different, so make sure to check the rules on your particular server before proceeding with something like this. Fear RP, or sometimes referred in correlation with value of life, means exactly what it sounds like. You fear for your life as you would IRL. It should go without saying, but in RP, you must value your life at all times and the lives of others. If someone pulls a gun on you and threatens your life, you should act accordingly. Don't try to run away or pull out a melee weapon that wouldn't win in a gunfight. Act like you would in real life. Your life is being threatened. Act like it. One of the quickest ways to ruin RP, besides speaking OOC, is to downplay a serious situation, such as being held at gunpoint or physically threatened. Fail RP is when someone fails at role-playing something properly, meaning they intentionally do something they wouldn't do or wouldn't be able to do IRL. For example, as we discussed earlier, not role-playing serious injuries, say being shot multiple times and walking away with zero reaction. Griefing means intentionally pestering, harassing, or stalking others to force RP. This is strictly forbidden on most servers. Combat logging is logging out while in combat. For obvious reasons, don't log out in the middle of combat. Similarly, most servers won't let you hide in your apartment when you're caught in a car chase or are running from the cops. Text RP. In certain situations, you may want to communicate something you can't physically show with an emote or a command. And again, you want to do so without breaking character because it's RP. This is when you can use text RP. We'll discuss this more in a bit, but here's a quick example. Downed means your character is knocked out, unconscious, or has severe injuries and can't respond and needs EMS to be revived. You should be unable to think or talk normally while in this state. The EMS may use text RP to say, check your pulse. Depending on the server, you may be able to do something like this by typing /me and then the message in your chat box. This is a way for the EMS to check with the downed role player to make sure this is not a permadeath situation. Remember, however, your character is downed, so you likely can't speak or shouldn't. But by using text RP, you can convey information like, has a pulse without breaking RP. In general, text RP shouldn't be overused, but sometimes it's the best way to convey necessary information you can't otherwise show or tell. In certain situations, it can even add to the RP, when of course the situation makes sense. As I mentioned earlier, most servers will require you to stay IC at all times. A good way to do this is to pay attention to the lingo others use when referring to things. You're probably familiar with this one. No matter which server you play on, pretty much everyone refers to non-player characters as locals, which I personally find hilarious. You can usually tell the difference between a local and an actual player right away, but not always. Locals will pretty much ignore you unless they're threatened in some way. Oh, and they are terrible drivers, like the worst.
My name's Bunkus.
Bunkus?
Do you know Alice by chance? Hey!
These damn locals.
Oh yeah, jeez. I hate the locals around here. You might hear a player referring to something being scuffed, meaning it's broken or glitched. For example, my pockets are scuffed, means they can't access their inventory. My very first time interacting with someone on the server, I went to say hello and the person told me I should take a cough drop. This seemed odd to me and I had no idea what it meant, but clearly they were trying to tell me something. I think I asked something like, what do you mean? Do I sound sick? And they said, yeah, you sound really sick, almost like a robot. Luckily, knowing this was my very first time on the server, I was recording myself to test my audio settings before going live on my stream. So I thanked the person and ran into a bush so I could watch the video back and find out what the heck was happening. Sure enough, my voice sounded like a robot. Clearly, I had done something wrong when setting up my audio. By the way, we'll cover audio settings in just a bit. This is yet another reason to test your settings. Do a sample recording and listen back to make sure everything sounds exactly the way you want it. Again, we'll go over all the settings in just a bit to help you avoid mistakes like this. If someone says they have a headache, it likely means that they dropped frames or got some lag. Or if you hear someone say, "What happened to Max? They were just here." Oh, his head popped. It likely means they crashed or got disconnected. You may hear someone say something like, "Flex your Y muscle," aka press the Y key, or think about sitting 3 times. Think is usually the slash key, and then sit and the number 3 for the third sitting position. These are the kind of tips people will give you while staying in character and explaining how to do something. Remember, you live in Los Santos. Stay in character when asking questions or conveying info. For example, if someone says, "Hey, is Johnny around?"
I'm Johnny Silverhand, and you just got cyberpunked. Later, losers. Oh, fuck!
You could say something like, "I don't think they're usually up this early," or "They're not usually in town at this time," or "I think they're visiting another city today," versus "They're not online right now." Similarly, someone might ask you, "How long have you been in the city?" Meaning, how long have you been on the server? You can also say things like, "This other city I like to visit," referring to another server you play on. Again, the exact phrasing will vary per server, but now you have an idea when it comes to lingo and the different ways you can ask questions, figure things out, or convey information without breaking character. We have a lot more to cover in this video, but if you ever have any additional questions I didn't cover, leave a comment below. I try to respond to every single one, and don't forget to check the written guide that's linked below. Speaking of questions, let's segue to the next topic, and probably the question I get asked the most in my streams. Which server do I join and how do I apply? All right, I hate to say it, but not all servers are created equal. And again, if you're serious about RP, I highly recommend you do your research so you know which servers are going to be right for you. First, let's cover the different types of servers. And keep in mind, some are more common than others. Economy servers are the most common for RP and the ones we'll be focusing on. V-menu servers basically let you spawn anything at any time. But because you don't have to worry about money, and it's obviously not very realistic, means it's not the best for RP. Scenario servers are somewhat RP servers, but they're not very immersive, and they usually let you talk OOC. On these, you basically just roleplay out a bunch of situations that you decide on the spot. Say, you and a group of people decide you want to RP a store robbery. You delegate who's the cops, who's the robbers, and then you play it out right there, while talking out of character whenever you feel like it. I suppose this could be used for practice in some respects, but if you want a true RP experience, I still think you're better off going with an economy server and preferably a whitelisted one. Now, are there public servers you can join without having to apply? Absolutely. Are they worth it? If you are set on trying out a public server, I'll go over a few of those first. But from personal experience, I'm telling you, the whitelisted servers where you have to apply are the ones you want to be a part of. Having a server with rules and guidelines doesn't make it any less fun. It actually makes the RP experience more enjoyable for everyone. Because in a world where actions have consequences, you tend to filter out all the people whose primary goal is to turn every city into Call of Duty Warzone. The good news is there are a ton of amazing ones out there with some god-tier RPers. Like yourself, just waiting for you to join in the fun. So let's go over some of the best ones out there and how to apply to them. But like I promised, we'll go over the public servers first, just in case. If you're keen on trying out some public or non-whitelisted servers, here are a few worth mentioning. Once again, these are public servers, not whitelisted, meaning you do not need to apply to them. NoPixel. No, you heard that correctly. NoPixel did recently release a few public servers. However, I've heard mixed things about the queue times. Sometimes it can be an incredibly long wait to get on, while other times not so much. However, there are ways to boost your priority with actual money, which I won't get into the logistics on. It's obviously such a hot topic. If that's something you want to do, you can do so at the NoPixel store, linked in the written guide below, where you could also buy dev coins if you want, an in-game currency or extra character slots. But don't worry, in the next section, we'll discuss the NoPixel whitelisted server and compare the two a little bit more. Mafia City roleplay. There isn't a ton of criminal activity, but if you want to practice RP and try out some legal jobs like fishing, for instance, it's a decent option for you. They do have some strict rules, but if your goal is to eventually apply to some whitelisted servers, which will have rules of their own, and maybe not even as strict as Mafia roleplay, perhaps this is a good place to start in the meantime. Grand RP, another popular one, which has some pretty cool UI, but it's also light on the RP side and can also be pretty pay to win as well, which isn't something I personally am very keen on. City Life RP has a nice starter guide when you first spawn in, which can be really helpful for new players. They also have a Discord so you can get to know the community, and a website with all the rules laid out, easy to follow, and a decent public server. They don't seem to have many, if any, locals, however, which is a little uncommon and can make the city feel a little bit bare at times. But other than that, not a bad option as far as public servers go. Now we'll cover the whitelisted servers, ones you need to apply for. When it comes to whitelisted servers, here are the most popular, and in my opinion, some of the best out there as far as quality, both server-wise and RP-wise, and how you can apply to them. First up, of course, NoPixel. NoPixel is what you see all the big streamers like XQC, Summit1G, and Vader playing on. For this particular server, not only do you need to apply, but you also have to donate, as anytime I've seen it, the standard whitelisting option is always closed. Note that donating does not increase or guarantee your chances of being accepted. All donors still need to apply. Their applications are just processed faster. Roughly 14 to 30 days at the time of filming this video. Again, donating does not guarantee your chance of getting accepted on the server, but it is a great way to support the awesome devs who make such an incredible server that everyone wants to play on. To quickly compare the NoPixel whitelisted server to the public ones, the whitelisted server is much harder to get into, and you can expect a higher level of role players overall. As mentioned, many are big streamers with a ton of eyes on them than you might get on the public server. Also, money is worth a lot more, which is healthy for RP as it naturally helps the development of long-term storylines and character arcs. As for how to apply, on the NoPixel site, be sure to log in with Steam to create an account, and then you'll be able to view announcements and important info, as well as the rules and guidelines, and the different punishment tiers if you break a rule. If you wish to donate, click on Donate and choose how much you want to contribute monthly. Based on what tier of support you offer, you'll be granted a title and given access to the civilian application template. I believe you can apply up to 5 times. And remember, this is not a one-time donation, but one that recurs monthly. By the way, in the next section, we'll discuss some tips on how to get your application to stand out when you submit to these whitelisted servers. Now, your heart might be set on NoPixel, and hey, whose isn't? But I promise there are a ton of other incredible whitelisted servers out there that you could apply for without having to pay anything. Starting with Twitch RP. TRP is the server I currently play on at the time of filming this video, and one I cannot recommend enough. Here's why. I've been playing on the server for a few months now, and I'm having an absolute blast. From the quality of RPers I've interacted with, to the Discord community who has been nothing but welcoming and super helpful, to the website design and clearly written out rules so you know what to expect, my experience has been amazing. I will say, if you're brand new to RP, this server does not hold your hand when it comes to figuring things out. As I mentioned earlier in the video, some RP servers will highly encourage you to RP every situation out and learn everything in character. But being new myself and having this be my very first RP server experience, I didn't mind it. I actually learned a ton just by asking questions I see. And to be honest, majority of what I'm sharing today are things I learned in my first week just by playing on the server. On the TRP website, click on GTA, where you'll find a quick start guide, other helpful info, and where you can apply. Make sure to log in with Steam to register. Note, for the TRP application, you will need to submit both your Steam ID and your Discord ID. Whether you're brand new to RP, like I was, or a veteran with a ton of practice, if you're serious about RP and you want a fantastic experience, come join us. You will not regret it. Next on the list, Redline Roleplay. You could check out their Discord, which has over 50,000 members. Once you create an account, you'll see the application template. Keep in mind, you will need to be at least 16 years old in order to apply, and have at least 75 hours of RP experience. That's where those public servers can come into play. It sounds like there's actually an audio interview portion you have to go through as well. But again, it's all laid out in their Discord, so just follow the instructions to guide you through the process. Next up, Just RP. Just RP seems like a nice starter server for beginners. On the Just RP forums, you could view the server rules, and once you create an account, you can view the whitelist application. You can also join their Discord, where you'll be notified upon acceptance to the server. I believe Just RP uses TeamSpeak, which, by the way, if the server you're playing on happens to do so, and you need to download it, you can do so at teamspeak.com. I've also got a link to it with instructions in the written guide linked below. I do think Just RP could have a little more information, something as simple as an About Us section, sharing maybe what their server has to offer or what makes them unique, maybe highlighting some features they offer that others don't, but that's just me. Next up, Echo RP. Echo RP is another server with a super clean website, as aesthetic as it is informative. On the Echo RP homepage, you can read all about the server and what they have to offer. I personally love when a server has information like this, sharing what they're about, or in this case, highlighting their notable features. It's especially helpful for those new to RP and interested in joining the server. You could also read the server rules, and after you join the Discord, you could fill out the whitelist application. Echo RP even advertises their streamers on their server and showcases their staff as well. Next on the list is Legacy RP. On the Legacy RP forums, you could view their membership and join the Discord, but it looks like you have to create an account in order to view the application. This server also doesn't offer a ton of info in regards to what they're about or why someone should join, but I did receive an automatic message in the Discord upon joining the server, which had info like a link to the rules, which I did appreciate. Next up, SAD RP, which is not as sad as it sounds, okay, guys? SAD RP, or San Andreas Department of Roleplay, offers a clean website showcasing what they're about while offering a ton of helpful links, including the rules, penal code, commands, ban appeals, and more. Upon joining their Discord, you must verify your account before you'll have access to locked channels. Next, Eclipse RP. Eclipse RP does things a little bit differently. First of all, they use Rage MP instead of 5M. And although you don't need to fill out a traditional whitelist application, once you connect to the server and create an account, you'll have to pass a quiz before you can play. The quiz will ask several questions about your character, however, much like a standard whitelist application. On the Eclipse RP forums, you can view the server rules, announcements, server commands, FAQs, and more. GTA Worlds. This is apparently one of the easiest to get into and offers a text-based RP experience, if that's something you're into. As per most servers, you could view how many players there are currently online, and you could create an account or log in to view the rules and fill out an application. Remember, this server focuses on text RP, so be sure to read through the rules thoroughly before applying so you understand what is expected of you and how it may differ from other RP servers. These are just a few of the many whitelisted servers out there, but some I definitely felt worth mentioning. And again, feel free to apply to more than one. As long as you respect each server's different rules and understand that they may vary, you can play on as many as you like. Now we'll cover the application process and how to make your characters stand out. Every server is different. Some may require a little RP experience, which again you can get on public servers, while others rely on the application process and how strong your character is alone. So let's go over some tips on how to make your application stand out. Although you might have multiple characters in mind, most servers want you to focus on one specific character when submitting your application. And we'll cover everything about creating your first character in just a sec. Now, if it feels like your application is taking a while, be sure to check the server's website as far as wait time, as most give an estimation on time frame. And of course, don't forget to check your spam folder, just in case. Now, I know what else you're wondering. How long do I have to wait? Don't get discouraged if you don't hear back right away. Some people might get accepted in a few weeks, but sometimes the application process can take a few months, and it may have nothing to do with you. What it may come down to is how many applications the admins have to go through and how busy they are when you happen to apply. You just have to be patient. And if you don't get accepted, as disheartening as it might be, take it as a learning experience. Apply again, and this time, check in with yourself. Is there anything I can do to improve my chances of getting accepted? What's a unique twist or personality trait I can give my character to help them stand out? And hey, if you are a streamer or YouTuber, send some links of you RPing. It doesn't have to be GTA, and it doesn't even have to be actual RP. When I applied, I sent in some clips of me RPing in Cyberpunk 2077, where I was essentially just running around talking to NPCs who weren't really talking back.
Was I supposed to kill her?
Then find the elevator.
Inappropriate, miss! Oh my gosh! Like, cover up! Damn! My eyes! Guys, my eyes! Skirt awareness!
It's all about having a strong foundation or a character you could portray that will be amazing to interact with. That's it. So again, no need to apply to just one and wait around hoping it works out. Apply to a few. Again, most role players I know play on more than one server, so don't be afraid to do so. Now let's discuss creating your first character. It's okay if you have no idea where to begin. I'd recommend starting with the basics and going from there. What does your character want? What do they need? What drives them? What stands in their way? What scares them? What are their goals? Do they have a favorite color or a favorite food? Are they repulsed by anything? Do they have any quirks? The more you start fleshing out ideas, the more ideas you'll get. By the way, if you need help getting started, you can use my template linked in the written guide below as a guide to start brainstorming details about your character. It's a great place to start. Remember, the cool thing about GTA is that nothing is scripted. Situations are always evolving, but it's still a good idea to have some goals for your character in mind, just like you do for yourself in real life. How would you tell your character's story? What is their arc? Where do you see them in 5 years? It's good to have a plan or an agenda, but just keep in mind that things can change at any time. So be flexible. And remember, sometimes you just gotta go with the flow for the sake of RP. But the more you know about your character, the more prepared you'll be in any given situation or scenario, and the more natural your actions and dialogue will become. When you're first applying to a whitelisted server, a good general tip is to find ways to make your character stand out, whether it's their backstory or their personality traits or the way they respond to people. Maybe your name is Fry Guy. You always wear a French fry mask and you go around asking everyone, did you want fries with that? Maybe you refuse to eat anything but fries. Or on the rare occurrence you accidentally do, you pass out immediately. This is just an example, but love him or hate him, Fry Guy is memorable. That being said, try not to overuse things to the point that it gets predictable or annoying. But having a collection of go-to quirks you could pull out of your pocket for the opportune times can make for a great laugh and some hilarious content. Remember that every person you meet will have their own personality and unique characteristics. So you never know how someone will respond to your catchphrase or your characteristics, which makes each interaction unique in its own right. The more you RP and develop your character, the more natural things will come to you. Before you know it, you'll be instantly responding to things that trigger your character or spark a conversation. Having things you can draw from at any time to give your character a strong identity that's not just recognizable, but something people can imitate is good RP.
Stop wearing my clothing! This reminds me of the time I invented clothing. I have to put you down, you're a clone. Attack fake Eugene!
Which one's which, man?
You have to test us. What's something only I would know? My grandson's name is Billy. My wife's name is Edna. I will throw it back to her.
Mother...
She
I will
throw it
shoot
back
you!
To me. Oof!
The scientist did!
Oof like me!
Oof! You're not even good at oofing! He's an imposter, get him! Get him! Help me, he's impersonating me, officer!
I don't know which one the fake one is, I can't tell.
What do you mean you can't tell?
I'll have you know, I fought in 47 world wars.
50 now, you idiot!
Hey,
the
stop
battles,
right
the
there,
battles,
fake
the battles,
What?
the
What
battalion
do you mean
battles,
fake
the
Eugene?
battle
He's the
battalion,
fake
war,
one.
the war
He
battles,
doesn't
the
even
real
know
one,
them.
the war, the whore.
After a while, your friends in game will be in on the inside jokes. And if you're a creator or streamer, your chat will love these bits too. So don't be afraid to reuse your best material. You can even give your character a unique personality or change your personality depending on the situation. Say, maybe you go from generic female to injured female after a car accident. Just go slow, my ankle, man, my ankle. Feel free to play around with some until you find one that's perfect for you. Changing your clothes, appearance, and accessories. Some accessories can be changed anywhere, like throwing on a pair of sunglasses or a mask or a hat. While changing your clothes, your hair, or facial features need to be done at a specific location. On some servers, you may need to visit a barbershop or a hair salon or a tattoo parlor, depending on what you need. While on others, any clothing store or apartment closet will do. And don't forget to save your favorite outfits, so you can easily change into them whenever you need to. Keep in mind, some servers strictly forbid you to significantly change your appearance in the middle of a car chase or a heist, for obvious reasons, so again, just don't do it. And when in doubt, just refer to the rules or ask in Discord. Having multiple characters is common for most RPers, especially when they all have completely different looks, personalities, accents, or things that set them apart from one another. However, for someone new to RP, I highly suggest sticking to one character to perfect first. The more solid and comfortable you become with your first character, the easier it'll be for you creating additional characters moving forward. Once again, when you apply to most whitelisted servers, they will have you focus on just one specific character. So make sure you spend a good amount of time hashing out the details of that specific character so they're not only solid for your application, but also your interactions on the server. Once again, you can refer to anything I mention in the written guide at any time or linked in the timestamps below. In the written guide, I'll also be linking to various websites I mentioned, along with the different RP servers we covered. And if you have additional questions, feel free to leave a comment below. I do try to respond to every single one. Or feel free to pop into my live streams on Twitch, where you can watch me RP as Dr. Deshrespect over at twitch.tv/deshplease. Now, if you're thinking, I got whitelisted, now what? If you are whitelisted, this means you were accepted on an RP whitelisted server. Congratulations! It's an amazing feeling when you've been waiting anxiously for weeks or months and you finally get accepted. And the first thing you'll probably need to do is find your Steam IO or your Hex ID. So here's how. Most servers will require you to provide this. In your application or upon being whitelisted, you can go to steam.io and click on Lookup. Here you can search by username, which may bring it up right away. But if you have a common username, make sure it's you. Check the avatar, or you can use Steam. Make sure you're logged in. Then click on your username in the top right. click on account details, and on the left, you'll see your stream ID. You could copy pasta this into the search bar on Steam ID IO and click look up, and it should pop up for you. Again, you could find this in the written guide link below. Another site you can use is VAC Band. Just paste your Steam ID in the search bar at the top, and it will bring up your different IDs along with your Hex ID. And here you can even see your status to check if you're banned, which hopefully you're not. You can also find this site in the written guide below. Now we'll cover the FiveM client and how to install. But first, what is FiveM? FiveM is a custom modification client that allows you to do all the things in GTA RP, not to be confused with GTA Online. FiveM is what allows all the different roleplay servers to create custom cars, custom maps, weapons, and more. FiveM allows you to play on modded multiplayer GTA server for things like RP, which is exactly what you see all the big RP streamers doing. They're using FiveM. FiveM keeps the original AI intact, so you can still see NPCs running around, aka the locals, along with actual players, aka other RPers. It is synced with Rockstar's network, so you're always getting the latest updates, which makes it arguably more reliable than GTA Online. And it's a standalone, meaning if you wanted, you could switch between regular GTA or GTA Online and FiveM without getting banned, as it doesn't affect your GTA 5 installation. This likely will only affect you if you have some friends that play on GTA Online, and some days you want to play with them, and other days you want to jump on an RP server. And for that, you'll use FiveM. By the way, FiveM is free. So let's walk through how to install it and how it works. Now, the very first thing you want to do is make sure you own your own copy of GTA 5. You could buy it through Steam, the Rockstar Launcher, or Epic Games Store. But even though FiveM is free, you do need to have purchased your own copy of GTA 5. Next, you want to make sure you have enough space on your computer to download the FiveM client. To find out the specs, go to the FiveM website, fivem.net. I'll go ahead and put a link in the description below. Here you could scroll down and see the system requirements. And I would recommend going with the recommended. Next, you'll want to click download client. Now, if you've got some extra time on your hands, feel free to read through the fine print. But if you're sitting there thinking,
No! Well, you were saying really boring stuff, so I ignored you for a second there.
then go ahead and scroll down to sure, I agree, and let it do its thing. Next, you'll probably get a pop-up that says something like, FiveM needs to update. Click yes. And remember, whenever you want to launch FiveM, make sure you have Steam open. Quick tip, if you're going to be playing often, I recommend pinning FiveM next to Steam on your taskbar. This helps me remember to click on Steam first, before opening FiveM, but whatever works for you. Another quick note here. I saw some people online saying they had to drag FiveM into a new folder with the game itself. So if you run into any issues, check out my written guide linked below. Once you open FiveM, you'll sometimes see a pop-up asking if you want to log in to your cfx.re account. And you can create an account, or you can go to the top right, and under account, you can link to your Steam or your console. Now click play, and you'll see a list of servers come up you could join. Here you could search for RP servers, you could use the filter by languages option, or you could type in the specific IP of a whitelisted server you've been accepted on, once you have access to that information. Now, if you're using RageMP and you need help with installation, check out my written guide linked below. Now for a quick tip. If you do happen to be streaming, make sure you do not reveal the IP address of the server you are joining. Note that recent servers you've played on will show up on the FiveM homepage when you launch it. And to be extra safe, you could also favorite servers by clicking the star icon for quicker access to avoid having to type the IP address every time. Now, if you try to connect to one of the servers and you get a connection failed notification, it's likely you tried to connect to a whitelisted server that you haven't been accepted on. Earlier in this video, I went over the best public and not whitelisted servers to join in case you want to refer back. You may notice some of the whitelisted servers may say free roam, which basically means you can spawn cars, vehicles, similar to a V-menu server. This may be something you're into, but again, if you want an RP-focused server, I highly recommend applying to one of the whitelisted servers we discussed earlier. I thought I'd give a couple of these public servers a try, but I was killed on the spot every time I joined one. Some of these may be okay and worth exploring, but if you happen to encounter an experience like I did, you might just want to wait it out instead and spend your downtime diving deep into your character's backstory, making it as strong as it can be for your application and RP endeavors once you are accepted on a whitelisted server. If you own GTA through the Epic Games Store and you try to launch FiveM with Steam open and it still doesn't open, check out my written guide linked below. You could try this trick, which seems to work for a lot of people. Now let's touch briefly on console. I don't play on console, but for those that do, the GTA forums seem like a great place to get started. GTA forums have no modded servers, but you can view how many people people are on the server and how many comments have been left to get a sense of how active the community is. You can even search for RP if you're interested in RP servers specifically. You can also join Discords and lobbies to look for a thriving community. I'll cover this more in beginner tips and advice. Now we'll cover your in-game settings and keybinds. As for settings, we'll quickly cover your main controls and keybinds to help get you started. Then I'll quickly touch on which settings I recommend adjusting specifically for RP. First, let's cover basic movements and common keybinds. Press escape, settings, keybinds. Take a quick glance at the default keybinds so you know how to walk, jump, sprint, enter a vehicle, crouch, etc. I play with a mouse and keyboard, so it's pretty standard WASD to walk, space to jump, shift to run, control to crouch, etc. If yours is slightly different by default, I recommend adjusting anything you need to what you're used to or more comfortable with. If you play on console, be sure to check under Settings, Gamepad to see your controls. Next, we'll click on Cars, Bikes, and Boats. Here, you'll see driving is basically the same as walking, WASD, and you can likely honk your horn with E. Next, click on 5M. Here you can see you can have up to 5 items on your hotbar, or as we'd say in character, your belts or your pockets. Depending on which number you press, it'll bring up the item you have slotted. For example, if I press I to go into my inventory, it will show what I have on my hotbar. I have my bat in slot 1, so if I press 1, I'll pop Cecile. Witnesses! Oh, fuck. Her glasses went way far.
I helped you.
You did. Don't get too close, though. You know Lucille. She doesn't hold back. Where are you going? We were just getting the party started. T will likely open your chat box, and this is where you'll type emotes like /E for sleep, /E for dance, /E for coffee, or text RP like /me picks up horns. Again, every server is different, so it might vary slightly on what exactly you type, but you get the concept. We'll go over more emotes, commands, and basic how-tos in just a bit. Next, let's cover your audio settings. These will mostly be personal preference, but I'll go ahead and go over mine in case you're not sure where to start and want some basic guidelines. For SFX volume, I keep mine at about 30%. To adjust the amount of each setting, just click on the bar where you can increase or decrease the amount and set it to your preference. Because I also stream, I actually keep my music at 0, since sometimes I play my own music and I don't want it clashing, but mostly so I don't have to worry about copyrighted music. If you're having trouble hearing people, you could try turning your dialogue boost up a few notches. But I personally haven't had an issue with this, so I just keep mine all the way off. For radio station, again, I have my music off, but I believe if you set a radio station, that whenever you get into a vehicle, that station will automatically come on. Now we'll skip down to output. I'm wearing headphones, so I set my output to headphones. Again, with RP, ideally you want the sound to be good, not just for yourself, but for everyone you interact with as well. So again, I highly recommend using headphones or earbuds, something besides your computer speakers, so others don't get an echo when they're around you. But for more setup tips, feel free to refer back to where I covered setup, do's and don'ts. Now we'll jump quickly down to advanced graphics. For screen type, I use full screen. For resolution, I'm using 2560 by 1440, but feel free to adjust yours to the max your computer is capable of. And for aspect ratio, I use auto. Now, if you ever have trouble with things rendering in game, maybe buildings aren't loading correctly, or you fall into the ground, or things just seem off graphic-wise, here's a few tricks you could try. First, make sure the following are set to off: long shadows, high resolution shadows, and high detail streaming while flying. Note these should all be set to off by default. Notice it even says changing these options may cause reduced game performance. So turning them on may result in excessive lag or a loss of FPS. Now, if you don't have the options above, click on graphics, then scroll down and set the following to normal: texture quality, shader quality, shadow quality, and reflection quality. Set all of these to normal. You can also make sure your extended texture budget is set to max. Next, click on voice chat. Make sure voice chat enabled is set to on. Now under listening, make sure to check your output device. For me, mine's set to game 2TC, Hilcon, Go XLR, since I'm using a Go XLR. But you may have a different option. Just make sure to choose whichever is your output device. For voice chat volume, I keep mine at about 86 or 90%. For SFX volume, during voice chat, I keep mine at around 20 or 25%. Music volume during voice chat, again, my music is off, but set yours accordingly. Under talking, make sure microphone enabled is set to on. For input device, I'm using Chat Mic 2TC Helicon, Go XLR. But again, make sure your correct input device is selected. Under voice chat mode, make sure it's set to push to talk. This is very important for RP. You don't want excess background noise, ruining your immersion or the RP experience for others. Remember, when it comes to voice chat, every server is different. Some may use Discord, some may use TeamSpeak, while others use VoIP. As for microphone volume, this may depend on your quality of mic. If people generally have trouble hearing you, you can raise it, but before you adjust this, make sure you aren't whispering or yelling and are talking normally. You don't want to end up shouting in someone's ear. To do this, you could toggle between whisper, normal, and yelling, but we'll cover this more in just a bit. As for microphone sensitivity, this is something you'll also want to play around with if you tend to speak incredibly loud or super softly. If you're someone that tends to speak quietly, you may want to up this a few notches. But again, this is absolutely why I recommend doing a test recording so you can see how your audio sounds to you and everyone else. And lastly, to exit the game at any time, simply click on Game and then select Exit Game. Now let's cover getting started in game. The delete key may be used to cancel an animation abruptly, such as hacking a register. Mouse control is something you may need to turn on in order to do certain functions, such as retrieving items from a counter or taking a selfie with your phone. Keep in mind this is a feature you might need to enable, and it will likely be found in your phone settings. In your chat box, you could type out commands, emotes, and even text RP. Some commands you can do simply by typing out something like /pry to pry open a cash register or /mask to put on or take off your mask. Now let's cover emotes. First, some basic things to know when getting started. As you can imagine, there are a massive amount of emotes that will allow you to RP various situations to your heart's content.
They look like miniature Santas, don't they?
Welcome.
You can likely access your server emote list by typing a command in your chat box or through your player menu. Emotes can be anything from sit to dance to chicken. The more familiar you are with emotes, the more you can have fun RPing out different situations and create an immersive experience for you and everyone you interact with. You can also hotkey emotes you use often. On the server I play on, TRP for example, I would do this by typing /ebind flip off in the chat box. Again, the bind command may vary depending on your server, but now whenever I click my hotkey for my keybind, which in this case is F7, my character will flip someone off. Now for shared emotes. Some emotes can be shared and performed at the same time, like a hug for example.
All right, so all three of us, we're going to do 3-person hug at the same time. Just like how you guys just did. We're going to attempt 3, 2, 1. Oh, you f***.
Poor Santa. Oh, man. In your player menu, you should be able to request, say, a high five from another player. Prop emotes can also be a lot of fun. If your character is like mine and obsessed with coffee, you might be able to type something like /coffee in your text box to always have one in your character's hand. Or say you're at a club or want to show off some dance moves. Maybe you want to do something like /glow stick to bust out some color changing glow sticks. Earlier, we mentioned text RP. In certain situations, you may want to use text RP to communicate without breaking character. You could do this with text RP. Text RP shouldn't be overused, but sometimes it's the best way to convey necessary information. In certain situations, it can even add to the RP experience, if of course the situation makes sense. Note that on some servers, you can access the emotes, shared emotes, or prop emotes list in your player menu. And depending on your character, say a cop or EMS for instance, you may have some additional emotes as well, such as swap for evidence, revive, or cuff. Similar to text RP, scenes can also be used to relay information. For example, say you rob a store and want to leave a piece of evidence behind for the cops to find. In your text box, you would type something like /scene, strand of wavy teal hair, and place it on the ground of the crime scene. You can also choose the color of the scene. Say you're driving and someone cuts you off or steals your parking spot. You can leave a nasty note on their car by doing /scene, red, fuck you, and placing it on their windshield. You can also delete scenes by radius by doing something like /scene delete 1, /scene delete 2, or something along these lines to delete nearby scenes. On your map, or possibly referred to as your GPS when in character, you'll find several icons on the right sorted alphabetically to help you navigate around Los Santos. Know your apartment if you have one, nearby garages so you can access your vehicle, and other points of interest. Note that typically you'll know if a business is open if their icon appears on the map. You can also click anywhere on the map and ping a destination, which will show up on your mini-map when inside a vehicle or on a bike. You can also share your GPS coordinates to a friend via text by using your phone. Now, to bring up your phone, the keybind will vary per server, but get familiar with whichever one it is because you're likely going to be using it a lot. In your phone, you can access apps like Twitter and the dark web, as well as add contacts, access your bank account, or even share GPS coordinates and photos via text. Twitter, for example, can be used to promote city events or your business, or it's a place where you can inquire about vehicles being sold or even post photos of you and your friends. With most servers, you can even create animated GIFs and upload them to Imager so you can share them in-game. For some servers, you may have to go to your phone settings and turn on mouse control to do certain actions like this, or to take photos with your phone. You should also have both PD and EMS on speed dial if you ever need to report a crime or in a case of emergency. Again, most of this can be learned through RP, but these are just some basics to help get you started. Now, when it comes to vehicles, again, every server is different. Some will give you a starter vehicle right at the start, while others may require you to take a driving test and pass it before you can even buy one.
Fog you, fire hydrant! Fog you!
Accessing your vehicles can vary by server as well. On the server I play on, Twitch RP, I can access my vehicle at any parking garage. By opening my player menu, I can retrieve or store my vehicles. And a quick tip, be sure to unlock your vehicle before getting inside. And always lock it when not using it so no one can steal it or so it doesn't end up in the impound. Trust me, it happens. Of course, keybinds will vary per server as well, but you can also do things like honk your horn, fasten your seatbelt, or open the trunk to store items, or hop in for a quick ride when there aren't enough seats. Vehicles can be upgraded, customized, and repaired when damaged, either by a mechanic, with a repair kit, or at a mech hub. When in a vehicle, you'll see the gas gauge, usually at the bottom left. Keep an eye on this, because when it's out, it's out. Your car will eventually not be able to move, and it's a good way to get stranded. You could fill your tank at a gas station or by purchasing a jerry can to use later or in dire circumstances. Say your vehicle runs out of gas and you have to book it to the nearest gas station on foot in order to refuel and get back on the road. When in a vehicle, it's always a good idea to buckle up, as some accidents may cause you to go flying out of the vehicle, resulting in some serious injuries when a seatbelt is not fastened.
Hold on.
Hold on to something.
You notice whenever you're in a vehicle, a seatbelt icon should be in the bottom left, usually green when on and red when off. There's likely a keybind like B, for instance, that should toggle your belt on or off whenever you're in a vehicle or on a bike. On some servers, you'll be given an apartment when you first enter the server, while on others, you may have to purchase one with in-game money. Some even have pretty in-depth housing where you could decorate, rearrange furniture, and you could even give players a key so they can access your apartment whenever they need to, as long as they know the passcode. In most housing units, you can also change your clothes or appearance for free without having to visit a clothing store. As you probably guessed, some gangs, also referred to as families, are a popular component on most RP servers. But this doesn't mean that you're required to join one by any means. Simply join a gang if it makes sense for your character, and it's something you want to explore. Remember, gang rivalries can get pretty intense. Some gangs will shoot on sight if you cross their territory, while others may require you to dress in a specific color scheme. On some servers, gangs and businesses can actually submit custom logos or icons to appear on clothing, which is pretty freaking cool. Now we'll cover the UI, HUD, and player menu systems, and other essentials you'll absolutely want to know before jumping straight into RP. As always, every server is different, so the UI or player menus might vary, or menu systems may look slightly different, but this will still give you an idea on how they work. Note your status icons that will likely be located in the bottom left of your screen. Hunger may be a burger or maybe a knife and fork, but the icon should be pretty self-explanatory. Look for an icon that looks like a microphone where you can toggle between whispering, normal speaking, and shouting. On my server, the default hotkey for this is Z, but yours may be different. The microphone changes color, whisper or white, normal or green, and yelling or red. In general, you want to stay in the green, but there will be times when you want to use your whisper voice or you want to be yelling. A good tip is to cycle through all the options when you first log on before resting it on normal. Some may refer to this in character as warming up your vocal cords in the morning. In some situations, you may want to yell if you're trying to talk to someone far away or in another room, and you may want to whisper whenever you're in a vehicle or discussing criminal activity, Say, plotting a bank robbery, for instance. Health is something every player must be conscious of. Different circumstances may cause different injuries, and the severity of those injuries may vary. But be aware, if your health becomes low enough, you will be downed and will need EMS to come revive you. On some servers, serious injuries can actually cause effects in game, such as blurry vision or slowed movement. Yes, you can die in game from lack of food or water. Make sure to stay hydrated and eat whenever you need to, and note that some foods are more filling than others. Not every player will wear armor, but sometimes cops may, depending on certain situations. Some servers will also have stress and oxygen levels you could choose to show when relevant, like when you're swimming underwater. Note that swimming is likely the exact opposite of walking. Think WASD in reverse, where you use S to swim upwards and W to swim downwards. I touched on gas and your seatbelt earlier when we discussed vehicles, but notice these icons will also appear near the other icons on your status bar, as will your minimap, which may only appear when you're inside a vehicle or on a bike. Your minimap is most handy when following a pinged destination, but we'll cover the map more in the next section. Now we'll go over the player menu. On my server, the keybind to bring up this menu is G, so some players may refer to it as your G phone when speaking in character. Here you should have access to everything from your inventory, to your vehicle, to character interactions, and more. Interactions may include paying a bill, billing another player, while you can also access different clothing accessories such as a hat, sunglasses, or a mask. Once again, most servers will highly encourage you to learn everything through RP itself, and I want to encourage that as well. You learn a ton just by being on the server and interacting with other RPers, and I wouldn't want to rob you of that experience, but what I will do is share some basic general info on some key categories just to help get you started. You can access your inventory through the player menu or with a hotkey such as I, which is mine by default. Here you can store, stack, or use items, and you can even drop items on the ground or give them to other players. Try right-clicking an item to see your options. Note that if you can't receive items from another player, you may be full on inventory slots, or be over-encumbered, or your pockets are just scuffed, but hopefully not the latter. Each server will have a variety of jobs you can choose from, so you can earn some in-game cash. You could even choose to be unemployed. Job may include state jobs like a taxi driver, or delivery, or player-run businesses such as car dealer, mechanic, or realtor. You can even do things like sell weed to locals for some quick cash. Some jobs, such as state trooper or EMS, or emergency medical services, or lawyer, can be whitelisted and will require you to apply in character and possibly even have an interview for the position. You can apply for these at the DOJ or the Department of Justice. Note that some of these jobs may take quite a bit of time invested on your part. Being knowledgeable about what you do may not only help you get hired, but will only further your RP potential and gain you respect in the community amongst your fellow RPers. For example, if you want to become a lawyer, it's probably a good idea to have some basic knowledge when it comes to the law and how court cases work, terminology, etc. As for hobbies, there are a ton of activities you can do with large groups such as fishing, go-kart racing, jet skiing, and more. Note that some hobbies will require you to use an item in your inventory or rent before use, while some can be done by shortcut, for example, /fish, to bring out a fishing pole. Most items for hobbies or crime can be found at supply stores. Some servers even have bowling alleys or casinos where you can gamble, with in-game money, of course. Another common minigame you might see a lot in-game is dice roll or death roll. This can be used in bets or events or in-game giveaways, say if a car dealership is giving away a vehicle. All right, I got 74. Pizza.
No, it's good to get the lower number.
Damn it! As for money, you can earn paychecks from working your job or get cash from selling items to other players or even locals, or by doing criminal or illegal activities. Money can also be traded with other players. Some UI will show your money, job status, and other info on the screen. On other servers, you may have to check in your wallet. You can also access your money in your bank account by going to a bank or visiting an ATM and using your debit card. By the way, if you're ever missing your debit card, you should be able to pick up a new one at the bank. Criminal activities, also known as heists, can include robbing stores or running illegal business operations. For these type of activities, some places you may want to visit are the ammunition shop for weapons and ammo, or the supply shop for crowbars or lockpicks, or perhaps the digital den for a radio or walkie-talkie. You could create or join a heist or squad group in your player menu by selecting crime, heist, then create or join, and create or enter the password. In a heist, you will typically only be allowed a max of 4 players, or maybe 6 for larger groups. This is usually to keep the server balanced, and to ensure police or EMS do not become overwhelmed. If you tend to run with the same group often, it may be a good idea for each player to focus on a different skill, to ensure each has a specific job, such as lockpicking, using a crowbar or lockpicks, hacking, using a datapad, plundering, a bank safe minigame, or hustling, or laundering money. Technically, the hustler doesn't have to be at the heist itself, but you will need to have the necessary skills in order to launder your money after a successful heist. Note that both a hacker and lockpicker can tamper with the register, and this can also be done solo without a heist. Remember, in RP, your actions have consequences. If you get caught breaking the law, know that you may likely be arrested, or fined, or even sent to prison. It may vary per server, but as far as prison time, minutes will usually equate to months. For example, if you get sentenced to 5 months in prison, this would equal 5 minutes. 1 year would most likely equal 1 day, etc. Now we'll touch on skills. Many activities or even jobs will require you to have a certain skill level in that particular area. In your character menu, click on Profession, then Skills. Here you could see how leveled you are in a certain skill set. To level a specific skill, be sure to practice something relating to that skill set. For example, hacking falls under science. To level this skill set, practice hacking. Or lockpicking, try using a crowbar and /pry at a cash register, or use a lockpick to break into a vehicle and try to hotwire it. You could refer to your skill level in character by saying something like, so far I've read 1 book on hacking, and I'm on the 2nd page of my next book. This could relay that you are level 1 in hacking and have 2 experience towards your next level. Now let's go over some mistakes that new players should avoid. Remember, we were all new once, and it can absolutely be overwhelming at first. A lot of servers don't have a tutorial when you spawn in, nor tell you how to level skills, how to get a job. But again, this is because most servers want to encourage you to learn everything through RP itself, instead of giving you a giant document of things to memorize. If you ever run into trouble, you can check your server website or just ask in the Discord. Make sure to respect your server's rules, as some Discords may have specific channels which you can ask in, while others may ask you not to PM the mods directly. So make sure to do your homework beforehand. And of course, if you have any additional questions for me, feel free to leave a question in the comment section below. I try to respond to every single one. Now, here are some common mistakes that new players should avoid. Don't violate TOS. This should be common sense, but do not violate the game's terms of service, nor that of Twitch, as many players you may interact with will likely be streaming. Sexual acts, ERP, nudity, and other touchy subjects, or doing things like playing copyrighted music, will likely get you or the person you're interacting with banned. So don't be that person. Don't exploit glitches or mechanics. This should go without saying as well, but do not exploit glitches or in-game mechanics. This will surely land you a ban, or at the very least, a warning for power gaming and breaking RP. It's simple. If something isn't intended to be done in a certain way, just don't do it. Don't forget to eat and drink. As I mentioned earlier, you can absolutely die from starvation or a lack of water. So watch your stats and make sure to grab a drink or a quick bite when you need to, before you pass out. Don't run out of gas. It is no fun when you're in a hurry to get somewhere, and suddenly your car starts acting wonky right before it comes to a complete halt in the middle of nowhere. Speaking from experience, it happens. Do yourself a favor and make it a habit of checking your gas gauge icon whenever you're in a vehicle. Gas stations can be found all over the map, so just look for the icon when you're running low and fuel up, because better safe than sorry. Now, if you're someone that happens to run out of gas often, like myself, you can even stock up on a few extra jerry cans to keep in your inventory if you tend to find yourself in desperate situations. But keep in mind, they do expire. Learn how to swim. Nothing like surviving a jet ski ride through shark-infested waters, only to die by drowning. Swimming isn't hard once you get the hang of it. Think of it as the opposite of walking. If you're worried, you can always practice in one of the swimming pools found throughout Los Santos. Lock your car and store it. Don't you just hate it when you stop for a quick bite somewhere and come back later to realize your vehicle is missing? If your server has you retrieve your vehicles from a garage, make sure to always lock it and put it away at a garage whenever you're done using it. Temporarily, you should be able to leave vehicles outside a store or parked on the street throughout the city, but be sure to lock it when you do so no one steals it, and don't leave it for too long, or it may end up in the impound yard. Always fasten your seatbelt. Get in the habit of fastening your seatbelt whenever you're on the road. When you're in a vehicle, you should notice the seatbelt icon appear in the bottom left of your screen or near your status bar. If it's red, time to buckle up. Servers may vary, but it's likely there's a keybind for it. If you fail to fasten your seatbelt and you end up in an accident and things take a turn, you'll likely be thrown from your vehicle. We're gonna... Help, I'm on fire. This can can land you some serious injuries, so don't risk it. Use items before they expire. Most items in your inventory will expire. Food, gas, even your debit card. Even weapons and electronics will expire after continuous use. An easy tip here is to stay organized. Sort your inventory by similar items and stack any that you can. Glance at your stats often so you use food, drink, or medicine as needed before they expire. Don't change your look. As a new player, it can be tempting to change your look, your clothes, your hair into a completely different style every single day because, well, you can. However, because you're a new player, it may be hard for people that have been around a while to remember your name or your character, especially if you're accepted at a time when there's a huge influx of new players or if you're constantly changing how your character looks. Remember how your favorite character growing up always wore the exact same thing? This may seem boring in a world where we can change our appearance every 5 minutes, but sometimes having a unique, instantly recognizable look is more important, especially when you're new and trying to stand out amongst a slew of new players just added to the server. Until you've been around for at least a few weeks or have met a majority of the players on the server, I recommend sticking to one unique, recognizable look. By all means, make it your own, make it awesome, but make it memorable. Until others get to know your voice or your mannerisms or personality traits, make yourself recognizable and avoid drastically changing your look. Now let's cover some beginner tips and advice. Join RP server discords. A lot of servers will let you join their Discord server even before you get whitelisted. So don't be afraid to do so. Scope out the vibe. Do the players seem engaged? Are people friendly and helpful? Does it seem like a good fit for you and the characters you're thinking of bringing to the server? Note that not all channels may be accessible to you yet, as some may be locked until you're whitelisted. But you can usually still get a feel for the rules and the overall vibe of the community, so you can decide if it's a good fit for you. In my experience, most people are happy to help and respond to questions pretty quickly. Browse GTA 5 streams on Twitch. Another thing you can do is pop into some GTA roleplay streams in the GTA 5 category on Twitch. Most streamers will put the name or abbreviation of their server in their title. For example, I'm on Twitch RP, so you'll see me with Twitch RP or TRP in my stream title. Browsing RP streams on Twitch is something I did when I was considering which servers I wanted to apply to. I'd watch a few streamers on different servers so I could get a sense of the characters, interactions, and the way they handled things, as well as the quality of our peers. And it really helped me narrow down my list of which servers I wanted to apply to. And don't be afraid to interact with others outside of RP. In fact, it can actually help you bond more when you do RP. Most servers have Discord channels where you can share your pics or clips from your streams or videos you make on YouTube featuring your friends. Don't be afraid to introduce yourself and get a conversation going, whether it's in Twitch chat, in Discord, or on other platforms. It can also be a great way to get to know others in the community you might not necessarily interact with or come across in-game. Perhaps you're in another time zone, for instance, but you can still build relationships with them, not to mention get your character's name out there. A popular site amongst the GTA RP community is Heists. Here you can browse live channels by server. Click on one and it will take you straight to their Twitch channel. Who the fuck is this? You can find a link to Heists in the written guide linked below. Introduce yourself to everyone. As a new player in town, don't be afraid to go around and introduce yourself. Meet as many people as you can. Ask them what they do for work or for fun. And try to remember something about them, whether it's an accent, something unique about the way they dress, or a fun fact about them to help you remember who is who. In the same respect, make sure your interactions with players are memorable. Does your character have a go-to catchphrase or emote? If so, use it. Whenever you meet someone new, make sure your interaction is meaningful in some way so you make a lasting impression. And get people's numbers. Plan some activities. Before you know it, you'll have a ton of friends in the city at any given time to hang out with. But don't be afraid to be the one that gets things going. It can help some other RPers come out of their shell, the more welcoming you are. I play as Dr. Disrespect, a character that's always getting into trouble. Yet I still make sure to introduce myself to everyone to try to make them feel welcome, not to mention invite them to join in whatever me and the No Pants Gang are doing. My ankle! Whether they choose to partake in these activities is of course up to them. Okay, we need any form of no pants, all right?
I am no going to mountains with any pants on. What?
I'm sorry, what now? I don't think you had a choice, Jefferson. I don't remember asking you for your opinion. And don't intentionally exclude anyone. The best way to do this is to always have an agenda in mind and then invite other players to join. Now, if you're shy IRL, it might be a good idea to have your character be the opposite. Maybe your character is overly confident or has a larger-than-life personality, someone who doesn't mind inserting themselves into conversations. If you're someone who gets nervous in social situations, try having your character be someone who doesn't get easily embarrassed. Or if you sometimes don't know how to respond, make that part of your character. Maybe your character is Santa Claus, and when you're quiet, you pull out your notepad and start adding people to the naughty list. In general, you don't want your character to be too similar to you IRL. They can have similarities, sure, but you are playing a character after all, not yourself. You want to be invested in your character without being too attached. For example, say someone you run into on the server, for whatever reason, doesn't like your character. Remember, this is RP. It doesn't mean that that player doesn't like you, but if you're playing a character exactly like yourself, it may be hard not to take certain things personally, because you would feel personally attacked. It's all about balance. As we mentioned, when you're new, it can be hard to remember every player you come across. In addition, many RPers may play more than one character, not to mention have a different name than they do in Discord, than they do on Twitch, or even Twitter. That's a lot of names to keep track of. Something that really helped me when I was first starting out was create a little cheat sheet for myself whenever I needed a quick reminder. Remember, these should only be things that your character has learned, not things you learned out of character. Essentially, I would add a screenshot of each person I met, along with their character name, something I learned about them, like where they worked, what gang they were with, etc., along with their Discord and or Twitch name. If you're a streamer, another thing you could do is use the nickname tool on Twitch, where you can add their character names on the server to help you keep track of who is who. Be a less selfish role player. This is something I myself have definitely been guilty of and something I'm trying to work on. My character is very chatty and can sometimes be a bit of a ham, and being a very outgoing person in real life, sometimes I have to stop myself from talking over others. Remember, every role player is different. Some may be shy or less talkative, but it's important to always give everyone space to RP. If two people are having a discussion that has nothing to do with you, it's okay to sit back and listen without feeling like you need to insert yourself into their conversation. If you have something to add to the conversation or the scene, that's one thing. But if you're about to say something to completely change the subject or interrupt their RP, perhaps it's better to sit this one out. If someone is having a moment, let them have their moment. RP can be addicting, and it's okay to be excited and have a character that is boisterous or outgoing. But regardless if you're a creator or not, get others involved. Have a the more the merrier type attitude. Invite others when you're doing an activity, or encourage others to join in the conversation by asking them questions or asking for their input. And if you do happen to be a creator, feel free to feature others in your videos. Trust me, you will meet some interesting characters, so show them off. Not to mention, it'll make them feel important to include them in whatever you're doing. They may not always join in, but I promise they will appreciate the gesture. Again, this can also be especially helpful to new or shy RPers that would like to join but aren't really sure how. If you're a true extrovert that loves being the center of attention, just remember, it's all about balance. Having a big personality can be something that people gravitate towards and want to be around, but it can also turn people off. If others feel you're constantly trying to take control of the conversation and make it all about you, or you're constantly interrupting people, they may start to avoid you altogether, and you don't want that. You, of course, want to stay true to your character and react how your character would, but always think about how your actions will affect not just you, but everyone involved. It's okay to stop and ask yourself, what will I'm about to do benefit just me, or benefit the scene and everyone? Make sure to give others a chance to shine too, especially if they're shy or quiet RPer and don't usually get to. If you notice someone else getting interrupted in a conversation, try cycling back to them and saying something like, what were you saying? Or I think you wanted to add to that? Again, if you're a streamer or YouTuber, feature some of these other amazing RPers in your content. Everyone you meet will have their own unique personality, character traits, and comedic moments. Don't be afraid to share the spotlight and highlight some of the other awesome RPers in the community. Now we'll go over some things to do your very first day in the city. If you have no idea where to start, here are 5 things I recommend doing your very first day to help get you started. Number 1, acquire a vehicle. If your server requires you to take a driver's test or get a license before you can drive a vehicle, I recommend doing this right away so you have a means of transportation. You can absolutely get around on foot, but it would take you ages, depending on where you're headed. There are a ton of different vehicle options, and you could ride anything from a bike or a scooter to a giant SUV and more. Even a hearse. Number 2, get a job. Visit the job center and get a job to start earning money. Money can not only buy you things like food you need to survive, but also those fancy cars you see people driving around in, or a warehouse, or even a store where you can run your business. Not to mention your favorite fashion trends. Number 3, check Twitter. See what's happening in the city. Are there any events going on? On Twitter, you could post or look for business advertisements, or see which activities are going on in your city to get a sense of where people are hanging out. Number 4, get to know your map.
Where are you?
I am at I'm not sure actually.
Get familiar with the areas on the map and major locations like Pillbox Hospital so you know your way around. Players will often refer to common areas like Sandy or Interstellar, so getting to know the map will make it easier when meeting up with others, or even when you're trying to evade the cops in an epic car chase. Take note of the different icons like stores, garages, gas stations, and other places you'll likely be visiting often. Remember, you can ping locations and view the route on your minimap when inside a vehicle, and you can even share this location with others via text as well. Number 5. Meet other players. As I mentioned, explore popular locations on the map where people might be hanging out, like the casino or the hospital, a restaurant, or maybe a mech hub. And be sure to introduce yourself. Meet as many people as you can. Add people's numbers to your contact list. Remember that the more people involved generally means the more hilarious, the more ridiculous, and yes, things can get a little hectic at times. But that usually makes for some hilarious content. I always think of it as the more people involved, the more spontaneous ideas, the more things that can go wrong, therefore, the more entertaining. When it comes to applying, these servers want to see how creative you can get. They want to see your character's potential, what storylines you can create, and how you might interact with other RPers on the server. So take your time and get it right. And don't stress if some questions seem a little... I'm sorry?
I said, can I help you? Sorry.
Are you talking to me, sir?
Yeah, I'm talking to you. Yeah.
Do your best to come up with a character that is unique and at the very least memorable. And when you're new, don't be afraid to let people know. You could say something like, "It's my first day in town," or "I just moved here. I'm still getting used to how things are done in the city." And you may be surprised how understanding and welcoming other players will be. The last piece of advice I want to give is just to be helpful. Just as you yourself may be new now, one day you'll be the veteran player. And when that time comes and you come across someone else you see struggling in game to figure things out, try to remember what it was like for you. Think about how overwhelming things could be as a new role player or someone new to a server. Be helpful, be understanding. If you hear someone talking or asking a question out of character that's not an intentional rule break because they're genuinely not sure how to do something, make sure to respond in character and offer some advice by RPing it out with them. Your kindness and patience will go a long way, I can promise you that. Once again, if there's anything you want to refer back to, feel free to use the timestamps below, or if there's something you'd like to go over in greater detail, check out my written guide linked below, where I have all the info I covered in this video, along with several links I mentioned, and of course 5M, and a list of all the servers if you're looking to join or apply. If you have any further questions, feel free to leave a comment below or pop into my Twitch stream over at twitch.tv/deshplease, where you can catch me RPing live, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and share with others that are looking to get started with GTA RP. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
Bye, guys.